Joining me now is Florida State Representative Anna Eskamani and Colby Edmonds, reporter for the New York Times. Thank you both for being here. Colby Edmonds, welcome to the show. I do want to start with you. I want to read from you. Prosecutor Andrew Warren, who was fired by Ron DeSantis, Mr. Ziegler's friend and compatriot. And this is what he said. No wonder Ziegler was such a cheerleader for my illegal suspension. He figured that state attorneys who aggressively prosecute sexual assault and corruption are a threat to his political career. For a guy who presents to champion family values, what a disgrace to all Floridians. Tell us more about this case, where it stands right now, where Mr. Ziegler stands legally in the state.
Right. So Mr. Ziegler has denied the allegations against him. As you said earlier, he has known the alleged victim for over 20 years, and in text messages that were included in the affidavit and phone calls that were recorded, he has called the alleged victim a friend, and to her, he denied the allegations. But he has seen some pushback from both Democrats and Republicans calling.
Oh, I think the gremlins have come for your Wi-Fi. See, I think we've lost Colby Edmonds. So, we're going to get your audio together, Colby. So let me just hold off on you for just a moment. We're going to try to fix your audio. I think the gremlins have come for your audio. So, Representative Eskamani, let me go to you on this. GLAAD, the association that represents LGBTQ folks' interests, they've talked about the fact that Moms for Liberty, this organization, is waging what they call a war on LGBTQ and race-inclusive books. We've seen Moms for Liberty. I think we have VO of them. They go to school boards in places like Broward County and other places, even places where the Moms for Liberty folks don't necessarily have a child in the school. They stand up, they get up during public speaking time. They speak out against books that contain themes of race, themes on LGBTQ issues, anything with sexuality in it that they object to. This is the group co-founded by Mrs. Ziegler. Your thoughts on the fact that it appears that she may have engaged in conduct that is perfectly illegal, if it other than the rape allegations, but consensual sexual activity that would put her in the B and Q category?
Well, first of all, Joy, thanks so much for having me on. And this is another example of Republican projection. Every attack really is a confession. Sexual freedom for me, but not for thee, seems to be the new mantra of the Republican Party and of Moms for Liberty. And I'm actually in Tallahassee this week for committee meetings. And I have to tell you and our national audience that the Republican Party of Florida is having a meltdown. Despite many individuals asking Christian Ziegler to step down, he hasn't. And I do think the hypocrisy is something that none of us can ignore. This is an organization, both the political party and Moms for Liberty, who have demonized LGBTQ plus people. Christian and Bridget have attempted to personify this traditional Christian marriage and couple, and yet here they are doing the exact opposite. Look, I have no judgment on a person's expression of their sexual activity. Of course, the rape allegations are serious and damning, but what I find to be most frustrating is just the hypocrisy of it, that you attack other people for living their lives as you live yours.
You know, Ron DeSantis has put himself forward, he and Casey DeSantis. I mean, she walks around in sort of princess gloves, sort of making themselves seem like this perfect ultra Christian couple. Although I've heard at an event he had to be presented with a Bible because he didn't actually own one. But they have sort of pushed this culture war thing to the max. I mean, he's put his pedal to the metal. Anything that isn't upholding and uplifting white Christianity is essentially illegal in the state. It's illegal to make white folks feel uncomfortable. It's illegal to have books that have themes that have LGBTQ, themes in them, or themes about race. He said that learning African-American history has no educational value. I mean, he's been an extremist on this. Has there been any talk inside of the Republican Party that maybe they were sold a bill of goods by him and his friends? He has empowered Mrs. Ziegler and he's got her in charge of what Disney can do.
Well, that's such a great question, Joy. It reminds me of a few other examples, too, whether it's Joel Greenberg, former tax collector from Seminole County, that's also been charged with not just fraud and other criminal acts, but sexual interaction with those under the age of 18, essentially rape. You also, of course, have Congressman Matt Gaetz with one controversy over the other. And here we are now with Christian Ziegler. So I think so much of what we see come out of the Republican Party of Florida is just not authentic. It's manufactured. It's an attempt to appeal to a very particular base of voters while demonizing others. And I do think that as we see Governor Ron DeSantis flail on a national stage, it's a reality check for a lot of Republicans where they have subscribed to this extremism because they thought it would benefit them. And then now they're seeing not just themselves, but also the people they looked up to as leaders fall from grace. And I think it's another example of how everyday people, they don't want the rhetoric, they don't want the hypocrisy, they want solutions. And as Florida Democrats, we're committed to staying focused to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real commitment to theater, to the bit. I mean, there are pictures of Christian Ziegler, Matt Gaetz, and Ron DeSantis all palling around. These are his friends. These are the people that sort of represent what he would present to us as a country. Let's not leave out Rick Scott, whose company defrauded Medicaid to the tune of a $1.7 billion fine, the largest fine in history, and then went on to regulate the way healthcare operates in Florida. I do believe we have Colby back. I see her there. So, Colby, where does the Republican Party writ large? Is there an attempt to sort of push him out of the way? Because, you know, there are other sort of scandally folks in the party that they haven't pushed aside. Has there been an attempt to distance themselves from Mr. Ziegler? He is the head of the party.
Mm-hmm. So my reporting didn't go too in depth into that specific area. However, Governor Ron DeSantis did call for Mr. Ziegler to resign last week after a debate. So there's definitely been contention among both Democrats and Republicans.
And let's talk about Mrs. Ziegler. She is not named in the complaint, but the complainant in this case, and this is a rape allegation, it is an allegation at this point, there's been no adjudication of the case. How does the woman in question describe her relationship with Mrs. Ziegler?
So her relationship with Mrs. Ziegler isn't explicitly defined in the affidavit, but Mrs. Ziegler did talk to authorities once the investigation began, and she did confirm that the three of them had encountered in a three-way sexual encounter once over a year ago. But the most information regarding the woman's relationship to the Zieglers is with Mr. Ziegler himself. They have known each other for about 20 years.
And I'll end with you, Representative Eskamani, because people who, you know, they can do whatever they want. They're consenting adults. So again, the rape allegation is not part of that, you know, part of the do what you want, obviously. But Ron DeSantis has made people who are LGBTQ feel afraid in the state of Florida, to the point where organizations like Equality Florida have put a warning on LGBTQ folks to visit the state. The NAACP has done the same. I just am sort of floored by the fact that the person running the Republican Party in the state, whose wife has been empowered by this governor, could just be so brazenly hypocritical. And I wonder if any of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle quietly behind the scenes have come to you and said, we know that it's all an act, and we realize that we've let him benefit from fraud.
Well, I wish there was that kind of spine here in the state legislature. But I think at this point, individuals of the Republican caucus are still kissing that ring, if you will, and kind of going along to get along to see if DeSantis somehow makes it through this Republican presidential bid. I do want to also add that if folks haven't heard the 911 call regarding these allegations, I encourage you to, because it's very painful to listen to, but also highlights the kind of harm that Christian Ziegler has caused to this woman. And it's a harm that he is causing to so many Floridians with his rhetoric, with his policies, and the policies of this extreme Republican Party that doesn't have any values, that's just flooded with hypocrisy. And really, individuals should not be following these leaders because they're not bringing us into a direction of collective prosperity.
And I will note that the person at the head of the party, their big mega boss, Donald Trump, has something like 26 allegations ranging from sexual abuse to rape. And he was found civilly liable for sexual abuse in the state of New York. Florida State Representative Anna Eskamani and Colby Edmonds. And that is their golden calf.